Celsius.
Bruh.
Jamal Adams.
He didn't feel it, but I did.
Football, but I had a lot of friends. Like my brother.
How y'all doing? It's been a little bit. It's been a while. I'm here with Andrea Urban. She works with Fox 13 in Utah and covers the Utah Jazz. How's it going today, Andrea?
Good. How's it going for you?
It's going good. Just a sunny, chilly day in Lubbock. You know, nothing typical. Not too windy though.
Yeah, it's beautiful in Salt Lake City today. I had the windows down.
Is it usually? It gets cold out there, doesn't it?
I mean, yeah, in the winter months. I mean, most of the mountains take all the snow, and then sometimes where I live downtown, some snow comes down here. But it's pretty nice. I'm originally from the Midwest, like Chicago, so the winters in here are nothing like Chicago.
Here, I mean, in Lubbock, it gets cold, but it doesn't get like. Sometimes it's gonna snow like one day, and then the next day it's gonna be sunny. That's just how it is, and the snow's all gone. So it's pretty.
Right.
Lubbock is pretty different. But anyways, we're gonna get right into this podcast and get right into the questions and everything. So first of all, just a little bit rundown about yourself. Like your experiences throughout college and where you are right now. How did you get to where you are right now today?
Yeah. Well, I'll just try to sum it up quick because it's obviously been, a hell of a journey to get to Salt Lake City. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago and I went to Michigan State for college. And at Michigan State, there's a lot of opportunity there. And back when I was there, we were really good at football and really good at basketball. And I know football is currently a work in progress, but part of a couple Rose Bowls, a couple, college football playoffs, Cotton Bowls, and Final Fours, Elite Eights. And just throughout all of that, I fell in love with what sports brings to people. And I was an athlete myself. I played volleyball for a year at Michigan State and then just kind of pursued my dream because I got an internship at a local TV station. But how that started was I was in a journalism class and we had an assignment. We had to do a job shadow assignment. And I job shadowed a news anchor for a local station in Lansing, Michigan. And, I go there and I'm so excited. And it's like 9 o'clock at night because they do the 11 o'clock broadcast. And she's like, okay, well, here's the, murders from today. Here's the politics from today. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is boring. I don't want to talk about this. And she kind of told me, well, what could you be interested in? And we have a sports department. And I'm like, introduce me to the sports department. That's got my energy and my name all over it. And so I went down to the sports department and met Fred, my next semester boss, because I got an internship with him. And then that internship turned into a part-time job. And essentially the rest is history. From Michigan, I went to a small town in Idaho. It's kind of one of those, you got to start somewhere. And the small town in Idaho was my starting from the bottom. And I spent 2 years in Pocatello, Idaho, convinced my Idaho boss to send me to a Jazz game. Now this job is all what you put into it. It's all the, can I do this? Can I do that? Give me that effort. And I convinced him to send me to a Jazz game. And while I was at this one Jazz game working for Idaho, I met Fox 13 Utah, which is who I now work for in Salt Lake City. And that's how I'm here. And I've been here for 1 year and 2 months.
That's a pretty interesting story. A lot of people like in their career, they really don't have like a straight up story like that. And you went from different cities, like so you were from Michigan and then you moved all the way to Utah, having no idea of what, like, I mean, you knew what you wanted to do, but you had no idea what the future held, and you just went straight into it.
Just took the opportunity.
It tends to be like that in sports a lot of times, like even up to just playing the game, up to reporting and everything. A lot of people take risks. Like the whole sports industry is all about risk. Even owning a team, drafting is all about risk. Just playing, everything is all about risk. And but that story, that's really interesting. Just moving on, what would you say, like, first of all, when would you say you decided that you wanted to have a sports career?
Um, I would say after my first internship with that local TV station, I looked forward to going to the internship and I didn't get paid. It was unpaid. And I was just like, I'll do more hours if you can take me. And he's like, Andrea, like, we don't have anything like, and I'm like, no, 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 I just want to be there. I want to be around. So I would go and just go to the press conferences with Tom Izzo and just go to the press conferences with the football team just to be there and be seen, because showing your face sometimes is the biggest thing, because even though you might not be doing anything, it's like, wait a second, I know her from somewhere. And I think after one semester of being an intern, I was like, wait a second, I could do this and get paid to do this. And once I realized that I could actually get paid and do something that I love, shooting video, editing video, writing video, and talking about sports for a living, I thought, there's no way I can stray away from this. And I kind of just refused to let go of the dream. I never really was like, well, if it doesn't work, I'll try this. I always was like, nope, I'm going to be on a sideline one day, or I'm going to be, and that's kind of what my mindset was always. And moving forward, that was at 19 years old. I was like, I need to do this.
Yeah, that's a sports career I don't really know. I feel like everybody has that point in time where they just realize that this is what I want to do. And you have to like accept the fact that you might, start off making a lot of money, or you might start off not making anything at all.
100%.
And that's one thing I knew I had to accept, like, from high school, because that's kind of when I decided I wanted to pursue sports. Because I knew I had interest in other things, but I knew I didn't have as much passion as I did for sports, so I had to pursue it. So now we know you work in Utah with the Utah Jazz, or work
Yeah.
with them sometimes.
Yeah.
How would you say a typical day is, just not just working with the Jazz, just in general, covering teams in Utah and on your place of work? How would you say a typical day is out there?
Yeah, so let's talk pre-COVID, because a typical day now is like logging onto Zoom and clicking different links and emailing different people, and it's just not the same. But BC, before COVID, it was, I would drive down to BYU and do a press conference with their head coach, their head football coach, Kalani Sitake, at 11 o'clock. And then I would, record an on-camera video of me at the stadium, kind of summing up what the press conference was about. And then I would get back in the car, the Fox 13 car, and I would drive back to the station, about 45 minutes, and edit that together for the 5 o'clock show. So I would be in the show, in the 5 o'clock show, but not my face. Or my face, sorry, but not live. There we go. And that was super fun, because that kind of became my beat. And then also the University of Utah was ranked very high in the AP Top 25 poll last year. I think they finished the season at 11th. And that was super fun for me, because I got to travel to San Antonio for the Alamo Bowl. And when it comes to the Jazz, they normally have practice at 10 a.m. So I would go to their practice at 10. If it was game day, it would be shoot around. So I would go to shoot around and catch them right after that and just chat with them. Not social distance at all. Here's my microphone in your face, and talk to them. And then that night, the game would be at 7 o'clock. And I would, get a little bit dressed up and get my stuff together and get to the game. And I always get to the Jazz games early, because I always try to want to meet maybe the opponents, or I want to be able to get to know everybody on every team, because who knows what that could lead to. It's one of those things, like you could show up at 6:30 and, set up your camera and be ready for the 7 o'clock tip off, or you can show up at 5 and mingle and meet some people. And that's when people from, the Indiana Pacers or people from the Clippers go, oh, who are you? And it results into something. But before COVID, we would go to Jazz practice, get to watch a little bit of it, and then interview the guys afterward. And before COVID, we would go to the Jazz games, and I would get to go into the locker room and interview the players after the game. And it's always so interesting to choose to see the outfits that they all change into, the Louis Vuitton head to toe. And I'm just in there like trying to pay my rent each month. And But it's been really great. And working with people like Donavan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert is also great. I know that they've said there's tiff between the two of them, but when is there not when you're on a team and you're trying to be the elite tandem and everyone, gosh, Jordan Clarkson to Joe Ingles. I mean, they're all fun and they're all really good guys. And it makes my job more fun because I feel like I can ask them a question and they're not going to be like, what was that? Like they're going to give me a chance and they're going to listen and give me an answer. So that's been huge. And obviously the Jazz is the only professional. Well, there is a MLS soccer team here, but when it comes to like the major sports, NHL, MLB, NFL, and NBA, we've got an NBA team and Salt Lake City revolves around it. And I'm so happy to be working with them because my goal in life is to potentially work in the NBA. So it's a work in progress, but I'm enjoying just kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, the NBA does seem like a very amazing career to work in. I too hope to work in the NBA or the NFL, one of the two, because I really those are two industries that I really have interest in and passion for as well. So speaking of the Utah Jazz, we definitely saw the kind of season it was. First of all, season started last fall. There was no COVID, and then in March, during the OKC game, which was canceled literally right before it started, which is a big shocker to the whole world. We were without basketball until July, which when the bubble was created, and we saw the Utah Jazz be phenomenal in that first round. I mean, even though they weren't able to advance past the Nuggets, we saw Donovan Mitchell play one of the best basketballs from a point guard. He averaged 36.3 points per game in that whole series, and he had multiple games where he had over 40 points. And him
50.
and he was
Jamal
just going
Murray.
off. Yeah, him and Jamal Murray were just going at each other throughout the whole series. That was probably one of the most entertaining series I've ever seen, and I was so glad to win the 7 games. So, what would you say? What would you say you took out of their 2020 playoff run?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about the Utah Jazz. I feel like other than Donovan Mitchell, who on our team can go and get us a bucket? And the answer is Donovan Mitchell. So that's a problem that we face is that, and Bojan Bogdanovic, he's a 3-point shooter, 41% from deep. He had wrist surgery right before the bubble. So we lost him and we needed him. And I think the Jazz put a lot into Mike Conley, and he's been injured for the entire season. And he's a veteran. He brings a sense of even keel to the court, but Mike Conley didn't shine. And what we need at the Utah Jazz is another player who's going to score for us. We've got the 2-time defensive player of the year with Rudy Gobert. Okay, great. Donovan Mitchell, he's the type of guy you saw him one-on-one with Jamal Murray. He's like, oh, you think I can't do this? Watch me do this. We need more of those. And Jordan Clarkson brings those abilities or brings those traits. But then when he's off, he's off. And Donovan needs to save the day again. So what we need is we just need another person who we can count on to score some points. And so what my takeaway was from the Jazz is that there's a lot of potential for it not being a major market in the NBA. There's a lot of potential for what we have. And Donovan, it will be our centerpiece of the franchise. They've already voiced that they will give Donovan a max contract. I believe they have enough in the money repertoire to give Rudy a supermax and keep those two. And then what's next is we need to build around those guys to make the Utah Jazz a championship contender. But as of right now, they're always going to be a playoff team because they can definitely battle and get to the playoffs. But it's just, where do they trickle off in the playoffs? And so that was my biggest takeaway, was that we needed scorers. And but I was very impressed by, after all the attention that they had on them as a team, from being the first team to test positive and end all sports and shut down the sports and Rudy and Donovan and all this attention, I do think the Jazz came back and performed very well for what they were going through.
And also, I really think that they really shocked us because at the end of the day, the Nuggets were the number 3 seed in the West, and Utah was not as high as they were. So it was really important. I mean, we all know that the Jazz as a team, especially with Donovan Mitchell playing, they are a very good team.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I expected that to be what it was. I mean, I didn't expect to be as much as it was, but it really exceeded my expectations because I mean, I didn't expect him and Jamal Murray to be going off 40 points a game, shooting multiple threes. That was what was really making the game go crazy. They were just making those threes, outrageous fadeaways from deep. Everything was just going in. And what really shocked me throughout the whole, the whole playoff series was obviously Donovan Mitchell had 36.3 points per game, but like the next person who was the next highest scorer on the team was Mike Conley, and he had only about 19.8 points per game. That's a big gap.
Yes,
and that
sir.
explains the reason why they struggled as much as they did. And Mike Conley being a veteran, he played with the Grizzlies as well. He's a veteran. He's been in the league for quite a while now. And you'd expect him to step up here and there, try, carry the weight a little bit. But it really seemed like Donovan Mitchell was like, just like he said, he was like the only scorer out there. He was the one who kept going to the basket and scoring over and over again. So I definitely agree with you. I personally think they probably need someone else who can help them out, like a different piece who can complete their starting five.
Yeah, they need a 3. So they've got the 1, they've got the 5. They need a 3 who's going to come in. So we need like a rising offensive player, a good defensive player at the same time. I think someone that comes to mind could be like a Paul George because the Clippers, yes.
I have my personal beliefs about Paul George, but I'll let you finish.
Well, no, it's not even about Paul. It's not about him as like a whole. It's about what we need, and that's a good defensive player, and he's on the all defensive team, and we need a rising offensive player. I also like potentially like Kelly Oubre.
Okay.
Potentially, just because again, he's kind of just rotting away on the Suns. These are players that, and I don't think the Nuggets would do this, but I also think Michael Porter Jr. would be a good addition. He shows flashes of good. And even like a Bradley Beal from the Wizards. These are all guys that are sitting on these teams and not really getting a chance to shine because they're just kind of on teams that are sitting back. And if we bring another star onto the Jazz to coincide with Donovan Mitchell, oh my gosh, I think that the Jazz could be a Western Conference Finals team.
Personally, my beliefs about Paul George is just I think I said it in the past 2 episodes, I believe. I think Paul George and the whole Clippers franchise really they tricked us. They sold us a season. They showed us a season that we thought they were gonna make it all the way to the NBA Finals, but they didn't make it past the second round. Paul George was a really big factor in that. Like in the last game, he had like he had about 8 points or so. He had a really terrible game. His field goal percentage was really bad. If Paul George if he keeps playing the way he played this playoffs, I don't know if that's the kind of piece that the Jazz need.
Personally. But it won't. He won't. Come on.
You know that for a fact?
Oh, come on. He's a stud. He's a stud, and what happens. All-stars have their bad days. Some people shoot bricks, and it happens. And some days it's raining threes. But that's the thing is the Clippers aren't working right now. So they need to do something to change. And I think an easy thing is, okay, get rid of Paul, keep building on Kawhi. And Paul, you want to stay in the West? Come to Salt Lake City.
I don't know about. Yes, players have their bad days. Even LeBron James, even Giannis, Steph Curry, we've seen them have their bad days.
Yeah.
But Paul George had a bunch of bad days throughout the playoffs. It wasn't just one. It wasn't just 2. It was a series of bad days. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Paul George is done in the league. I don't think he's necessarily washed. But I'm saying that if he shows that kind of basketball again, he's going to raise concerns in the whole league. Because I mean, I was a fan of Paul George playing in Indiana. He was he was a really good defensive player. He gave LeBron James a battle every time they played each other in the playoffs and in the regular season. So I think he's a great player, but he wasn't a great player this playoffs. That's what I would have to say.
100%, and I agree with you. I also like the bubble. I went to college with Gary Harris from the Nuggets, and I've continued to be his friend from when we were in college. And him and I were talking recently, and he was like, being in a bubble, a Disney bubble for this long, he's like, man, it was miserable. And some days you had to tell yourself, keep going, keep going, keep going, because like obviously we're, getting paid big money to play basketball and this is a big deal. We're going to the Western Conference Finals or whatever. But he said it got on you mentally. You're not allowed to let people come in. You're not allowed to go out. And it's definitely tough. So I don't want to make excuses because how Paul George played was absolutely trash and unacceptable. But the circumstances are unbelievable. And I think some players shined in the circumstances, Donavan Mitchell, and I think other players drowned in the circumstances.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. This is something that I'll call growth in my career, at least. I would say initially, when I was younger in like high school, especially a good example was when Kevin Durant left the Warriors. I always saw things from a fan's perspective. He did this, he left, he sold out his team. But I grew to kind of start looking at things from my perspective as a fan, my perspective as a future analyst, and also the player's perspective. And it really makes you understand things from a different level. Yes, I'm going to talk trash on Paul George all the time. I'm going to say he played bad, but he also voiced out how being in the bubble really affected his mental health. And as a human being, like you cannot ignore the fact that would probably affect the way he plays.
100%. Yeah,
so
and that's
I
the thing.
Understand that.
And when you step onto an NBA floor, you make it into the NBA, you automatically are putting yourself into the public to be judged and, just ripped on essentially in all forms if it needed to be that way. And that comes with the territory and that's okay. So I don't know. Those are just my thoughts and I'm not married to any of these players specifically, but it's more of what we need. And we need rising offense and we need good defense. And that's what I think when it comes to building this Jazz team, hopefully.
Yeah. Speaking of, so just continue on the Jazz. So what do you expect them what do you expect from them this upcoming season?
Gosh, so we need to make some changes, obviously. I'm really interested to see what happens because Mike Conley is a free agent, but he has the player option, and I assume, and he's making $32 million, I think. And we pay Mike Conley a lot. We accepted that contract when we took him from Memphis, and he's got the player option. So if Mike sticks around, then we need to take that into account when it comes to balancing through Donovan Mitchell, Mike, and Rudy. But as for the future, I think we will still be a quality contender in the West. I don't think that we are not going to ever be above that 8th seed. I think we are going to be sturdy in the West. It's just who's going to be the one to step up? Who's using this? I got an email. Who's using this off season to be better? And who's using this time? I mean, I need more out of people like George Niang and Joe Ingles and Mike Conley and Jordan Clarkson. And keep going. I need more out of all of them. But I definitely think that we will be a contender in the West. And I also say don't sleep on the Jazz because, again, if the franchise can get one more guy to support Donovan Mitchell, then the Jazz are going to be a problem.
That's true. And also, being honest, we've seen them. They've literally continued to improve every season. They haven't had like a wishy-washy amount of seasons. Like they've improved every year.
Yep.
Donovan Mitchell turns to the starter. He's born to be that star. He's going to be a star in the league. I definitely believe that the Jazz, if they keep going at the rate they're going, obviously they were a 6th seed this past season. Possibly they could eventually move up to like a 5th, 4th seed, and eventually possibly move up to the top 2, top 3 seeds in the West. I definitely believe the future is very bright for this team.
Yep. But
at the same time, it's very important to look at those loopholes in your team and try to fill them up. Otherwise, you just continue to struggle, and
100%.
That's when things kind of get ugly in the league. So I definitely think the future is bright. I definitely hope to see them continue to excel. But my Lakers are always going to have the West. So they're probably
we know. I know. You guys got the money, though, to build a franchise.
Speaking of, I heard you say something about Bradley Beal earlier. I'm praying that Bradley Beal, somehow I'm praying the Lakers are able to get Bradley Beal.
I'm sorry. If you get Bradley Beal, it's going to be unfair.
How is it unfair? The Warriors did it. Why can't we do it?
Because enough super teams coming out of California.
But that's not going to be a super team like that. Not necessarily a super team. It's just a team that just kind of happened.
If LeBron James and Anthony Davis are on the same roster,
Bradley Beal, that'll be amazing.
You got to yourself a Monstar super team. I don't even want to hear it.
LeBron is playing point guard, but he played point guard throughout the playoffs. But we need another guard, that can shoot and score. KCP really showed up big time. Danny, I'm so disappointed. But
Rondo
was very important, and a lot of people don't pay attention that Rondo doesn't necessarily have to score to show his importance on the team. He plays good defense. He facilitates. And everything.
Shout out Kyle Kuzma from the University of Utah.
Kuzma this playoffs. I wasn't necessarily mad at him. The two people I was mad at the most this playoffs really was just Danny Green. Really most. And JaVale McGee kind of disappointed me here and there. Shout out to Quinn Cook. He's a very good basketball player. When he played this playoffs, I was also kind of disappointed. But I think I definitely think my Lakers are probably gonna have the West. But the Jazz, maybe like a Western Conference Finals or so.
Yeah. At least, and as long as LeBron is on that Laker team, and they continue to be the powerhouse that they were or have been, I don't think that we'll see anyone taking over the West anytime soon. But they'll at least be contenders, and that's all the Jazz can really ask for right now. I don't think any of us are expecting the Jazz to go and win us a title, but we're expecting the Jazz to continue to grow.
Okay. So speaking of that title, just like we said, the Jazz probably need they probably need one more piece, three, definitely a small forward to be perfect for them.
Mm-hmm.
But besides all I said about the Lakers always owning the West, do you think that in the next, let me say, 5 years, the Jazz could possibly potentially contend for a title?
Gosh, I think so. That depends on how we build and how we grow and how we get better. The moves that we make in this offseason are going to be huge. And it depends on, I think Donavan Mitchell said he's here to stay for, at least the next 3 years with the Jazz. And if Rudy gets super maxed, those are 2 all-stars on a team. And I really think that we could, because we've seen some bursts of just superstars from the Jazz. I mean, when they beat the Mavericks in the regular season before the bubble, Luka was playing at his absolute peak performance, and Porzingis was in the game too. And we won. And when we won, and I was at that game, it was one of those. Wait a second, we can do this. And if we can continue to see more of that, then for sure, 5 years is a long time when it comes to building an NBA franchise. And I could for sure see that. And I think that All-Star Weekend is coming to Salt Lake City in 2023. So I'm pretty excited about that too.
That sounds pretty amazing.
So much.
Personally, also from what I'm seeing and from what I've seen from them, I also believe they could contend for a title in the next few years. As long as they continue to grow.
Yeah.
Started having Donovan Mitchell. He's definitely a dog. He can take them to where they need to be. But at the same time, you don't want to have him to be playing like LeBron did his last year on the Cavs, having to carry the whole team. Like that's
what
you want from a young player, because he's gonna tire out very fast, and that's not really gonna work. And you could even see it even with Miami when they played when they were able to extend the series to Game 6. In Game 5, Jimmy Butler had he had over 40 points and he balled out that game. But if you paid attention after the press conference, he was like limping and he was sore. And after I saw that, I was like, he's most likely not going to have a good Game 6. And that's what happens when a star is just going at it,
holding the team down
all the time. He has to carry the whole team. He tires out. And
Yeah.
You don't expect him to play the same way for, 4, 5, 6, 7 games straight. And that's kind of what happened with Donavan Mitchell. He was able to play the same way for 7 games straight. I really I really commend him for that. That's something you don't see a lot. He was really able to do that. But at the end of the day, it just shows that one person
cannot be the team
title.
unless you're LeBron.
Huh?
I said unless you're LeBron.
I mean, LeBron took them to a title, but one player cannot win a title for you. Even Michael Jordan cannot win a title for the Bulls.
Yeah, I mean, even in Cleveland, he had Kyrie and he had additions, Tristan, JR. He wasn't just him, but he carried it.
Yeah. So I definitely believe they can contend for a title as long as either they can find another piece or the pieces they have right now could improve and step up from what they're already doing. Then I definitely think they're gonna really, really show us some good basketball in the future.
100%.
They're showing us right now. I'm gonna step away from the Utah Jazz right now and kind of come back into your career. Before I even ask this question, I think it's kind of essential for me to explain how I even got the opportunity to get your contact and be able to get this opportunity. So I remember back in June when I was taking a summer class. It was special topics in journalism, and you just happened to be the professor. Happened to be one of the guest speakers in the class, and I remember the professor. Even before you spoke, I remember when he told us who was coming to speak, and I was like, I would like to hear someone who works in the NBA, who works with the NBA. And he had said, "Oh, you're a sport management major. You're trying to be an analyst. You're trying to go into sports, and really, out of this whole group, you're really the only one who's trying to do this. So I'm gonna make sure I try to cater her presentation and her her speaking to you, make sure that she knows what you're trying to do." And that really, that decision that he made really helped me more than he knows right now. I should probably send him an email later.
I love that.
Because if he didn't do that, I wouldn't get this opportunity, to get your contact information and then be able to put you on this podcast. And I don't know if you remember that day that you spoke. That was I mentioned that was the day I was dropping the first episode to this podcast.
Yes, sir.
And we've come a long way. There's been some bumpy roads. There's been some some breaks in there, but we've come a long way. And I'm really happy and really honored to have you on this podcast once again.
Oh, well, thank you. And that's the thing. And you're going to learn this really quick. How you grow in this industry is by getting to know the right people who are going to be in your corner and work with you. So this is just one start to making your connections and building your contacts.
Thank you. And I'm excited. I'm really excited.
And thanks for having me. It's been fun talking basketball.
Yeah. And just with that being said, I was gonna transition back into your career. What would you say? Maybe not one single thing, but what would you say are some things that you love most about working with you?
Gosh, what do I love about working where I work? Just the opportunity to cover so much. We've got 4 major colleges, if you want to say major. We've got Utah State, University of Utah, BYU, and Weber State. And then we've got the Jazz. We've got an MLS soccer team, Real Salt Lake. There's a minor league AAA baseball team for the Angels here. And anytime an Angels player gets injured, they come down to the Bees, Salt Lake Bees. So for me, what I love about where I am at currently is just the opportunity to do so much. And sports matters a lot here. And on Friday nights, I'm still covering high school football. And then on Saturdays, I'm going to big stadiums and covering college football games that are airing on ESPN. And at those college football games, they have ESPN sideline reporters. And I'm always like, hey, Molly McGrath, I'm Andrea. Because you just don't know. And if you have the opportunity to be at a game, let alone the sideline or the press box, it's foolish to be there and not talk to people around you, because the talking to the people around you always leads to something. So I think what I love most is just the ability to cover and do so much. And yeah, I love basketball the most, but it's so much fun to do football, and it's so much fun to be at the soccer games, and it's so much fun to do all those things. So I think that's what I love, and it keeps me going. Every day is different, and a lot of people go to work, sit at their desk, and work on the same project they were working on yesterday. And I wake up every day and go, okay, what do I get to do today? So that's what I love.
That sounds pretty amazing. it's like I always tell myself, and I've always told people, a lot of people ask me, they expect me to be, when they ask me what my major is, expect me to say engineering, pre-med, pre-law, but I'm just like sport management. And they're like, I always get the question, like, why did you choose that? And I told them, I was like, I know I could probably, go into an engineering career or maybe like, a business career or something like that.
Of course.
Sell and, get my money immediately and make a lot of money like right out of college. Mm-hmm. But I've always been a big factor of, are you happy where you are? Like, are you going to work every day? Yeah, frustrated, upset, and not even having any. Because when you're not happy where you are, there's really no passion.
Oh my gosh, it's miserable. It's miserable. And before I got into TV, I had to work as like a waitress because I wasn't willing to get like a real job with hopes that a TV station would call me and then I would have to leave and then the job wouldn't let me leave. So I was working as a waitress because I was like, okay, they'll let me leave whenever, And I remember I worked there for 6 months. Every day I was like, I have to go serve people. Like the service industry wasn't for me and I did it. And once I got into the TV world officially, it made me go, wow, this is how it's supposed to feel. I'm supposed to enjoy doing this.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's that. And that's always my answer to everybody. That's why I'm doing it, because right now recording this podcast is not a stress for me. It's natural to me. It's something that I want to do. I'm not like, I have to record another podcast today. Nah, it's like, I'm looking forward to recording another podcast today. Because sports is what I want to do, and that's the reason I pursue it. But just stepping away, we're gonna step away from the Jazz and everything, and we're gonna go all the way to the West Coast, to Los Angeles, California, to the king of basketball, to my GOAT, LeBron James. Do you think it's a two-part question? Do you think LeBron James is the GOAT? And if not, what do you think he needs to do to become the GOAT?
No, I think he's the GOAT.
Great.
I think LeBron James is the GOAT, yeah. Well, I think it's two different times of basketball. It's almost annoying when everyone tries to compare the two because it's totally two different styles of basketball. Yeah. So I think both are GOATs. But when you look at what LeBron's doing at his age, everywhere the dude goes, he puts his team in the finals. Everywhere he goes, his team wins a championship. You can't discredit that. And you can't discredit that if a team is struggling, you put LeBron onto it and he changes what's Cleveland without LeBron? Like even the Lakers, they've been the building work in progress, trying to get better for the last couple of years. LeBron gets over there and it's like 1, 2, 3, let's go win this title. And you can't look past that. We are currently watching greatness. And this kid, LeBron James, has been watched like a hawk since he was in high school. He would sell out arenas for a high school game, and the kid's not even getting paid yet, and he's 18 or whatever, and he's just glad that his mom raised him in Akron, Ohio. You just can't discredit what greatness we're seeing in front of us. So when people start to debate the GOAT, I think they are both GOATs, which is the cheap answer. But I do think that LeBron, for today's type of basketball, for what he's done, his 4 titles, he's a GOAT.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Not just the fact of me, being,
a fan,
a LeBron fan, as you can see up there. That's a picture.
And your hat.
And my hat, and so many other things that I have.
He's not giving it away at all.
And my multiple LeBron James jerseys. But it's also the fact that, like you said, it was definitely a different time. Yes, basketball was more physical back then, but basketball was not as athletic as it is right now.
Not at all.
It was not a whole entire range. Even Michael Jordan himself was not the best 3-point shooter.
No.
That really shows you that the range, the 3-point range was a thing, but it wasn't as big of a deal as it is right now. You 100%. Have Steph Curry and Damian Lillard and people like that shooting from the logo and just making it. You have people playing half court press on these people just because they're so good at shooting the threes. So now the floor is expanded, and it keeps expanding. Like when LeBron James came in the league, people were shooting threes already, and threes was vital to the game, but not the way it is right now, where people are just pulling up from the logo, You saw that happen. Even Jamal Murray did that. Donovan Mitchell did that himself. Like, you see a lot more people are beginning to do that. People like Trae Young as well. Young people are beginning to do that, and it shows that like the game is much more different. It's much more athletic. You have people like Zach LaVine dunking from the free throw line. If Zach LaVine played back in the 90s, he would have been a bigger star than he is right now. Because
so much so. And I have this state or this little like I don't know what I want to call it, but if the Jazz make 15 threes, then they will win the game. And that is it always is my thing. When I'm watching, I'm like, make 15 threes and you'll win. That's literally us. Or just the game of basketball right now is if you can make a long range shot, you can't be stopped.
Yes.
Because you can't. And you're right. It's changed. And speaking of Damian Lillard, he actually went to Weber State, which is a college here in Utah. So when Damian came to town, we got to do a little feature with him, being that he was the star of the Big Sky Conference in Weber State. And but again, players like that are unstoppable. And it goes back to what the Jazz need too. Long range shooters or people who are going to score, and the three ball is everything. And when you got a 7-footer who can shoot threes, Jokic, I'm talking to you. You got a 7-footer who can shoot threes but also play big in the post. That's the game of basketball now. And Rudy Gobert needs to start shooting threes, or else he's not going to be a star anymore. It's true. That's what's happening with the league. So you're so right.
Yeah, definitely. And like for example, like Kevin Durant, he's not 6'10", 6'11", whatever you're saying. Kevin Durant is probably about 7 feet, 7'1". You have someone that tall shooting threes consistently.
Yep.
Jokic,
unbelievable.
Jokic cannot even jump off the ground like maybe 3 feet, but he can shoot the ball from everywhere, and it's just like a slingshot, and it goes right in every time.
I know, it's annoying.
And it's it really shows. It really shows like how the game has evolved when you have bigger players shooting the ball efficiently, and it really shows like the kind of people LeBron has had to deal with. The only time LeBron had ever been with a super team was Miami. It was 4 years in Miami.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, after he won that first ring, the Chicago Bulls were a super team all through those 6 rings they won. They were a super team. They were the Warriors that people are talking about now.
Yeah, let's talk about
and that's what I always try to explain. LeBron did not play with that team for that long as much as Michael Jordan did. Michael Jordan retired 3 times. He retired about 3 times. And, LeBron James, when he was on the Heat, he brought him 2 titles. On the Cavs, he brought them 1, and now he brought 1 to the Lakers. With Michael Jordan, he was on the Chicago Bulls. Yes, he gave them 6 rings, but what if Michael Jordan got traded?
Could he change a franchise if he walked into a different team?
LeBron James turned a Cavs that Kyrie was struggling with to a championship team. The first year they went in there, they went straight to the finals. Yeah, they lost, but they went straight to the finals.
Yeah.
The Lakers, everyone had given up on the Lakers after Kobe retired. Even before Kobe retired, everyone was like, the Lakers are done. The dynasty is over. He gave him the 17th title after just 2 seasons playing with him. That is why I think LeBron James is the GOAT. Wherever he goes, he literally turns franchises around. Yes, he doesn't have 10 scoring titles. Yes, he doesn't have 6 rings and 6 MVPs. And yes, he doesn't have 4 defensive titles. But he is still changing all these teams, and he is a playmaker first. And you literally see teams take a whole flip around when LeBron James is in there. And for all we know, the Lakers could have made the playoffs the first season he went there, but they weren't. LeBron James, he didn't play. That was the one season he didn't play the whole season because he was out for about. I think it was about like 10 games. It was like a huge amount of games that really mattered if they were going to make it or not make it to the playoffs. So
it was a rebuilding year.
Yeah, so I definitely believe that he's the GOAT. He's my GOAT.
And I think he got gypped of the MVP this year.
He definitely did because our MVP.
Because I'm sorry, Giannis, MVPs don't get kicked out of the playoffs and the semifinals or the quarterfinals.
Yeah, very unpopular opinion. I know the MVP is a season award, but if you can't win the MVP if you don't make the playoffs, you might as well just give the MVP not after the playoffs, but maybe after the first couple of rounds of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, if if your team doesn't make the playoffs, you can't win an MVP. So why don't you just make it a postseason award then, if that's the case? But
I feel that.
That's just my opinion. I think that playoffs really shows who's really a dog, who's really the MVP, who's really playing good basketball. LeBron showed us that in the playoffs.
100%.
So yeah, I definitely think he got robbed of the MVP as well. Also, would you say that in the finals, when Bam and Dragic got hurt, would you say if they never did get hurt, would it have changed the whole outcome of the NBA Finals? Do you believe?
It wouldn't have changed the whole outcome. This year was LeBron's year. This year was the Lakers' year. Would there have been maybe another game? Would it have maybe have gone to 6 games or 7 games? Probably. Yeah. 7 games. But the outcome would not have changed because, with Kobe passing away, with LeBron, building this team essentially and making it all the way to the finals. You got Anthony Davis playing at a peak performance. This year was the year of the Lakers, whether we liked it or not. And yeah, would having the other stars help the Heat? Of course. Then Jimmy would have probably not have limped off the stage. But the outcome wouldn't have changed either way.
Yeah, I definitely believe that because, a lot of people, there's a lot of LeBron haters out here.
Of course.
Them are always, trying to find a reason. Oh, he won because this. If he didn't do this, I actually saw a tweet. It really upset me. It really, really upset me. The tweet was like, it was saying, it was like LeBron had to go get carried by AD and the Lakers to get to the finals and to win the finals. I was like, that does not make any type of sense. He was the finals MVP. How did he get carried?
Yeah. Haters are going to hate.
Yeah, it's just things like that. They're always trying to find a different reason for why LeBron is not the GOAT. LeBron is not the Lakers didn't deserve to win. They said that, if Dragic and Bam had played all 6 games or played all through the series, the Heat could have probably won or LeBron wouldn't have done this and done that. I don't think so. I think LeBron plays the way he needs to play. I always say this. If LeBron is playing a team who he goes 100% all the time. But if he doesn't need to score 30-something or 40-something points to beat a team, he would do that. But if he does need to score 30-something or 40-something points to beat a team, then he will.
Yeah, and here's what I was talking about with my friends is like Jimmy Butler drops 40 and has, 11 rebounds or whatever, and everyone's like, whoa, it's a crazy stat line for Jimmy. And then LeBron, drops 40 and has, 15 rebounds and even a couple blocks too. And everyone just goes, because that's an expected stat line from LeBron. But with Jimmy, it's a wow stat line. And with LeBron, it's a same old stat line. But if you really look at both of them, it's both an amazing stat line, but it's expected from LeBron. So people just don't act so surprised anymore because it's expected from him. But if you really look at it, Jimmy puts up those points one game. Everyone praises him. I love Jimmy Butler so much. But my point is LeBron puts up those points every single night or puts up that performance every single night. And people just look past it because it's expected from him. So that's something you need to take into account is that this guy's putting up all-star performances all the time, and it's a expected stat line when really we should be praising what we're seeing here.
Yeah, we definitely should. But, I don't want to get all routed up about LeBron because if I do, we'll be here for another hour. But I definitely do think, the outcome wouldn't have been different. Jimmy Butler he has my respect.
Love him.
He's a dog. He's a very good basketball player. Bam's a dog. Dragic's a dog. Tyler Hero's a dog. Until you did that whole smart thing, I didn't like that. They're all dogs, but at the end of the day, the best players in the show on top. And just to close out this podcast, I have a very vital question for you. So you work you work in sports. You're a reporter. You're always in arenas, whether it be an NBA arena, it could be a high school basketball. And it could be a football stadium. But specifically towards the NBA, what do you think should be the approach when it comes to fans for the next season? Do you think there should be fans? I mean, obviously, I don't think they're going to stick to the bubble. That's probably not going to happen. What do you think the approach should be to the next season when it comes to fans?
Yeah, there needs to be fans because fans, merchandise, fans, concessions, foods, tickets, that stuff is huge for organizations. They need that sense of income. But to make it work, I actually have to give a little shout out to our little MLS soccer team here, Real Salt Lake. How they're doing it is awesome. 5,000 fans. Normally the stadium seats, I think, 30 or 40,000. So they're allowing 5,000 fans. They zip tie the seats shut that you're not allowed to sit in, and then they allow the seats to open where you are allowed to sit. And every ticket is digital, and you have on your phone the time that you're supposed to show up to which gate. So there's no congregating at the gates. And you can also order concessions on your phone and go pick them up from a designated location. And then in the rows, there's never anybody else in the same row as you, or at least where the exit aisle is. So you never have to cross over anybody. So they're really just doing it so well over there. And it made me think that having fans in the NBA would be so possible, because look at how well they're doing it, at least with soccer. And obviously college football has been a different journey because of college and kids just not really giving a crap as much as they should. But when it comes to an NBA team, I think temperatures at the door, social distancing in the stands, I think we need fans. I think fans are a extreme, even just, I was at the BYU game this last weekend. No fans were there. I was so bored. Even though there was a football game going on in front of me, when there's a crowd yelling, when there's fans booing, and there's music popping and the crowd screaming, it's a different vibe, and we need to get them.
So would you say the NBA should hold it about like maybe 50%, or maybe like higher than 50%, or lower than 50%?
Probably 30%. Knowing if COVID sticks the way that it is, it's about 30%. That way you can still have people in the stands and still social distance. And yeah, I think fans is a must for the season.
Yeah, I definitely think that too. Because especially with basketball, like having an empty basketball arena, it would be like playing at the gym. It would be like playing a pickup game.
Yep.
Just like you said, it's probably going to affect some people's game as well. I definitely said before the bubble started, I said the bubble is going to show us who really plays basketball, like who really can look past the whole thing. Because we don't see what's going on in the bubble, but when you think about it, most of these players are not with their families. It's just them in a hotel around each other. They're not leaving the bubble. They can't go anywhere. So, and I remember I made this joke after Game 5, because during Game 5 of the finals, I was with my friends. We were all dressed up in Laker gear. We were going to pop champagne. We were going to go crazy, but we lost, right? We lost, and I made a joke after that. I was like, aren't they tired of being in the bubble? Just lose and go home. Like, aren't you ready to go home? I know you're ready to go home. Like, I know you're frustrated, and like just thinking about it, like they're probably losing their mind out there, but they're not gonna say, "Oh, because I want to go, have fun and find pleasure, I'm gonna just lose and tank." People actually play, and this season definitely showed us who can look past the whole thing and play basketball, and that's why you see a 5th seed being in the NBA Finals. Yep. So I definitely agree with you. There should be fans. There should be some type of fans.
I'm over the virtual fans. No more virtual fans.
It was fun for the first week or two, but it's cool now. We need to see real people. And I'm really looking forward to this next NBA season, even though it's going to be kind of odd. We're not used to NBA starting usually when it does. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I want to see what the season's going to bring out, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
100%.
Wish you Utah Jazz good luck.
Thanks.
Donavan Mitchell, but just Donavan Mitchell.
I know.
I just have a couple of random questions for you. So when it comes to football right now, what teams are really in the NFL? What teams are really shocking you and giving you like a team that you really think are gonna excel throughout the whole season from what you've seen?
Ooh, I don't know. Shocking me. I'm not necessarily shocked by it, but I'm not surprised that the Chiefs are being the team that they are. We knew an upset was going to come sooner or later with them, but I do love the Chiefs, and I love what they bring to the table, and I love Patty Mahomes. But let's see, what else is a team that stands out to me? Baltimore Ravens, the Saints, because you've got the Taysom Hill and Drew Brees dynamic duo, which nobody else has the Swiss Army knife of Taysom Hill. I know there's another one off the top of my head. Obviously, the Packers, even though I don't want to give them any sort of props, but the Packers are always good at what they do. But lately, it's just been fun getting to see everyone getting settled in this new world of no fans. And I guess some teams did have fans. The Steelers allowed fans. Yeah. But I would say those are probably 4 teams that I always look forward to watching. I don't really have any sleeper teams for you because I'm telling you, my full focus has been NBA and college football lately. But I do watch the NFL as a fan, and I always look forward to the matchups of Chiefs, Ravens, Packers, and Saints.
For me, I would say some sleeper teams. So I'm not going to jump the gun just yet.
Okay.
The Browns are 4-1.
Oh, love it. Love it.
I believe 26 years.
Yeah.
That's a very long time.
Love Cleveland.
I'm not sold yet because they've only played the bench. They lost to the Ravens in the first game. You can't, I mean, it's the Ravens. So
yeah, you can't
count them out because of that. Then they won. They beat the Bengals. They beat the Redskins. They beat the Colts. They beat us, unfortunately, the Cowboys. So the test is going to be another sleeper team or another shocking team. I don't think the Steelers were. I wasn't expecting the Steelers to be a bad team this year. But
right.
I didn't expect them to start 5-0. Or I wasn't expecting to be undefeated right now. So
right.
the Steelers are playing the Browns on Sunday. If the Browns beat the Steelers, a very impressive defense. If they beat the Steelers, then I'm going to say they're going to be a team that's going to shock us this season.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
If they don't beat the Steelers, I'm not going to count them out just yet.
Right.
Because, again, it's a very good team. But I think the Browns are shocking me for what I'm seeing so far. When it comes to individuals, I would say Justin Herbert. I doubted him. I didn't think he should have been picked as high as he was. I knew he was going to be a first-round pick. I wanted to be picked in the first round, but I didn't think he was going to be picked that high. And
right.
I had said after the draft, I thought he was picked too high, but I've been pretty wrong with past 4 games. He's played amazing. And those are people that I believe, are sleepers in the NFL.
I agree. And since you're a Cowboys fan, I'm sorry for your Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I was funny story. I was watching the game on Sunday. He had ran the ball 9 yards. He goes down. I look at it. I just know what it is exactly. I see his ankle bent. And, I'm watching my roommate, and he's like, oh, yeah, he caught a cramp. I'm like, look at the TV. He did not catch a cramp. His ankle was bent backwards. And, I was so, that's the first time I've ever actually, felt like Dak was, my son or, my brother or it hurt me so bad. Not just because I was a Cowboys fan. Obviously, that was a big reason as well. But, just like I said, I like to see things from players' perspective. And he's had a tough year. He lost his mom a few years ago, I believe. He lost it earlier this year. And he came out how he's been struggling with mental health and stuff like that. So getting that kind of injury that ends your whole season, an amazing season like that. He had thrown for over 400 yards every game, up to the Giants.
Yep.
It was really sad to see him go down, but I really hope he comes back stronger.
Yep.
I really hope he continues to be the player that he is and even better.
The comeback story is always the best.
Yeah, that definitely hurts me. So last question, I would say, in college football, who's got your eyes right now?
Well, I mean, this weekend Alabama and Georgia plays, and it's interesting that Nick Saban has COVID. So I'm interested to see what happens if an assistant coach kind of takes over and handles the job. But and then I loved, what was it, Oklahoma, and it was the 4 overtimes this past weekend. It was Oklahoma and Texas.
Texas.
Yeah, that was wild too.
That was a wild game.
I love stuff like that. But now here's the thing: is October 24th, the Mountain West returns, and then November 7th, the Pac-12 returns, and I think the Big Ten returns Halloween, or I think. But once you bring back all of these conferences, things are going to change in the AP rankings and in how we look at college football, because that's been my biggest thing lately is, how do I judge how good you are? Because I really don't know. I'm not comparing you to the Ohio States and the Michigans and the, just USC, Utah, and those are all coming back. And once that comes back, I think that college football is going to be so much fun, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, I definitely cannot wait. I go to Tech. There's really we barely beat a team. We barely beat Houston Baptist, and we've lost everything after that. So I do not support Texas Tech. I mean, I do, but I'm a Buckeyes fan. Because of Zeke. Yeah, Justin Fields. He's a great quarterback.
Ew! Come on, dude.
My starting running back is a Buckeye alum, so I'm allowed to support them. So by association, that is my team. Tech is also my team because I go here, but I'm ready to see, go Bucks. We're gonna come out this season. We're probably gonna, we should definitely won last year. That last game against Clemson, that one pass that that he missed with Olave, that was really sad because he was supposed to go in and he went out, but then Justin Fields threw the ball in because he read the play that way. Otherwise, I think we would have beat Clemson and we would have made it to the national championship. But yes, I'm definitely excited as well. So far, I would say favorite is, Clemson is still balling out. So
of course,
balling out. So Clemson is also a team I really like. So I'll have to see them ball out. I just don't want to see another Alabama championship.
Me neither. No, thank you.
I love watching Alabama, but I don't.
Same. But I'm also annoyed because I feel like Alabama is essentially the Lakers of college football.
Don't do that. Don't do that. The Celtics. The Lakers and Celtics now have the same amount of championships, so I guess.
So yeah, I'm just basically saying that they're a super team. That's all.
Yeah, they're pretty big super team, and LSU is also pretty.
I was gonna say that too. You got to give the Tigers a little bit credit too. Those guys are consistently balling out, but again, and again, it happens. But right now, that's all we have to look at is those guys, and I think that it'll be so much more fun when I've been missing Big Ten and Pac-12. Like, bring them out.
I'm definitely ready as well. Well, thank you so much for hopping on this podcast today. It's been an honor talking football, basketball, all sports.
100%.
LeBron James is your GOAT because he's
yes, sir.
I wish you luck throughout, your career. I hope to see you working with the NBA, directly in the NBA. I wish you so much luck in all your career. And,
Thank
it's
you.
been fun talking, and hopefully, we can keep in touch, in the future. Thank y'all so much for watching this episode 8. It's a wrap. Y'all make sure to like, subscribe, click on that button so whenever I drop a video, y'all can be ready. But peace out. See y'all later.